In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. Before we welcome our extraordinary guest today, we pause, as we always do on America in Black and White, to honor a son or daughter of this nation whose life reminds us that the work of justice is never finished, and that the most powerful thing a person can do is show up. Tonight, we reflect on the life and legacy of D. Ray McKesson, born July 9th, 1985, in the city of Baltimore, Maryland. Born into a city that shaped him, challenged him, and ultimately called him back to serve Baltimore was not just a place on a map for D. Ray. It was the crucible that forged his conscience and the canvas upon which he would one day help paint a vision of what this country would become. From those early years in Baltimore, something was already forming in him, a deep, unshakable sense of responsibility to the people around him and a refusal to look away from injustice, even when looking away would have been easier. D. Ray McKesson went on to earn a degree in government and legal studies from Bowdoin College in 2007, where he also served as student body president, a role that foreshadowed the kind of community leadership that would define his life's work. From Bowdoin, he stepped into a classroom in East New York, Brooklyn, as a sixth grade math teacher through Teach for America. That classroom, full of young people that the world had already begun to overlook, planted seeds of justice deep within him. He carried those seeds into his subsequent work with the Harlem Children's Zone and into the administrative and talent development roles with Baltimore City Public Schools and Minneapolis Public Schools, where he ultimately rose to serve as Chief of Human Capital for Baltimore City Public Schools, stewarding the talent and workforce strategy for an entire urban school system. These were not just professional milestones, they were years spent learning the architecture of broken systems from the inside and asking every single day how to make them whole. Then in the summer of 2014, the killing of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, changed everything, not just for D. Ray, but for a generation. He went to Ferguson, he stayed, he live streamed, he organized. He put his body, his voice, and his platform on the line at a moment when silence felt complicit. He was present in Baltimore when Freddie Gray's death ignited his own city. He was live streaming from a protest in Baton Rouge in 2016 when he was arrested, charges that were later dropped. And through all of it, he never stopped building. Alongside Janetta Elzie, Brittany Packett, and Samuel Sengwe, D. Ray co-founded Campaign Zero, a landmark data-driven policy platform designed to end police violence and dismantle mass incarceration with the precision of research and the urgency of love. As the executive director of Campaign Zero, he continues that work today. He is also the author of On the Other Side of Freedom, The Case for Hope, a member that is a memoir that is both it's a personal testimony and political manifesto. And every week he hosts Pod Save the People on Cricket Media, an award-winning podcast that covers justice, identity, and equity with intelligence, warmth, and unrelenting purpose. He holds honorary doctorates from the New School, the Maryland Institute, College of Art, and his beloved Bowdoin College. He has been named one of Fortune magazine's world's greatest leaders, recognized among Time magazine's 30 most influential people on the internet, celebrated by Forbes as one of 21 Black leaders who shaped history, and honored by President Barack Obama himself for his community organizing and advocacy work. What makes D. Ray McKesson's journey so profound and so necessary to reflect on here on this show is that he never chose between the classroom and the front lines. He never chose between policy and protest, between data and emotion, between hope and accountability. He insisted that all of it was possible at once. He represents a generation of Black leaders who understands that education and activism are not opposing forces. They are the same force moving in the same direction toward the same horizon of justice. His life tells us that you can teach sixth grade math in Brooklyn and then march in Ferguson. You can manage human capital for a city school system and then build a national policy platform. You can be strategic and passionate, analytical and on fire. His life is proof that Black organizing is not a detour from the American history. It is one of its most important chapters. And here on American Black and White, we are proud to hold that chapter up to the light. We carry D. Ray's example with us now as we welcome a man who embodies that same spirit of service, scholarship, and sacrifice. A man who has dedicated his life to transforming schools into places of possibility for every single child. Now, let me introduce our outstanding guest today. Again, good evening and welcome. Welcome to America in Black and White. I'm your host, Charles Zachary King, and I am so deeply grateful that you choose to spend this time with us tonight. Whether you're watching on your screen, listening in your car, or streaming us from wherever life has taken you today, now you know that this space was made for you. This is a space for real stories, real conversations, and real people who are doing the sacred and often unsung work of building a better America. Every episode, we come together to listen, to learn, to be moved, and tonight, I promise you, you will be moved. I want to talk for a moment about possibility, about what it looks like when possibility walks into a room. Sometimes possibility looks like a new law, a new policy, a new movement in the streets, but sometimes, some of the most transformative times, possibility looks like a teacher. It looks like a leader who walks into a school building before the sun comes up and is still there long after the last child has gone home. It looks like someone who chose deliberately and passionately to stand in the gap between the world as it is and stand in the world as it should be, and to build that bridge with their bare hands, one student, one lesson, one relationship at a time. There are people in this country who understand that education is not a job. It is a calling. It is a covenant. And the ones who answer that call with their whole hearts, with their intellect, their empathy, their creativity, and their courage, they're changing the trajectory of lives in ways that will never fully be measured, but will always be felt. Tonight's guest is one of those people. He is a builder, someone who looks at schools and communities not as they are, but as they could be, and then goes to work. He is a bridge connecting students who have been told they cannot with educators who believe they can. He is an advocate, someone who does not wait for the system to get it right, but who pushes, challenges, and transforms from within. He is a mentor, a visionary, a voice for the voiceless, a champion for the children that too many systems have given up on. And he does all of this not from a place of ego, but from a place of deep, genuine, self giving service. His work in classrooms and communities alike speaks louder than they title. He holds he holds or many credentials he has earned. Though those credentials are remarkable, and we will hear about them tonight, he is the living embodiment of what it means to lead with love. This conversation is going to go deep. We're going to talk about where he came from, what shaped him, what drives him, and what he wants to leave behind. We're going to talk about a special education, not as bureaucratic category, but as a moral commitment to the students who need the most and are too often given the least. We're going to talk about leadership, advocacy, community, and the future of education in this country. And we're going to hear the kind of truth that only comes from someone who has lived it, not studied it from a distance, but been in the rooms, in the classrooms, in the communities, in the trenches, doing the work every single day. This is the kind of conversation that American Black and White was made for. So I'm not going to make you wait any longer. This time has come. It is my absolute honor, my genuine privilege, and my sincere joy to welcome to America in Black and White an educator, a leader, an advocate, a visionary, and a man whose mission is nothing less than the transformation of schools into spaces where every single child knows they are seen, they are valued, and they can succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the extraordinary Dr. Samuel L. Bennett to the show.
Good afternoon, good evening, good evening, good evening. How you doing
Hello, sir. How are you? Welcome back.
today? Thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure.
Yes, sir. So, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we get into the show?
Oh man, I just want to say I definitely appreciate the introduction, man. That was pretty extraordinary, and I'm just happy to be here. Happy to be here, and excited to be back again.
Yes, sir. Well, so we'll start off, where I like to have the audience again to get the opportunity to get to know who Dr. Bennett is and, the good things about Dr. Bennett before you became Dr. Bennett. So, can you take us all the way back to the beginning of where did you grow up and what do you remember most about the community that raised you?
What do I remember most about growing up? Uh, Man, I remember my trials and tribulations the most. Because
Mhm.
those are what truly shaped me to be who I truly am. And the easiest way for me to sum up the other piece is my favorite way of saying it is I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have our own identity. We believe in hard work. We believe in hard, honest work. So that's Sam in a nutshell when it comes to his hometown and where he's from. But on the other side of that, um, I have a second home, and I was thinking about this earlier this week. Maybe because I was thinking about the podcast and everything, and it just really been on my mind. But I was thinking about where I'm from. I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh, and that truly uh, made me who I am. But I spent a lot of time in Virginia. I spent a lot of time in the 757. So the best way for me to say that is Pittsburgh made me who I am, but the 757 area molded me into who I wanted to be.
As I think about that, as you say that, and I think about the Steel City because I've been to the Steel City several times. I'm a Steeler man, and I know what that's like being in that city. And so being tough, because you definitely got to be tough. And
Right.
so to say that, and to take that two-prong answer that you answered, where you were built here but you was molded here, again, that adds more to the dimensions and give you all the tentacles that you have, that basically says this is what you're doing and your give back process. What is it from those two places that you can tell us today is your total foundation for why you are the great example of a leader that you are?
Uh, I love both of those cities. A lot of relationships in both of them. Even still have my relationships. Even I was there for a short time when I first left Pittsburgh, but I was in the DMV area. Still have a lot of relationships there. But what I would also say between those cities, what made me today, or what molded me into today, was it. As I grew older and I reflect on my time in both of those cities, one thing that stands out to me the most would be advocacy.
Okay.
It would be truly advocacy. Um, and that's what I really wanted to dive in deep with within my dissertation is I wanted to really investigate and study, um, you know, a lot of things that are consistently ignored within the minority communities. So for me to see that in two different areas that mean the most to me, that is something that resonates most to me. So within my time, even in Northern Virginia, so I'll just say Pittsburgh in Virginia, I'll say just advocacy. That's where it really brought it together for me.
So, who were the people in your life, family, neighbors, teachers, mentors, who had the most profound impact on who you became? What did they give you that you still carry today?
Man, that's a loaded question because I have some relationships, and I truly mean this from the depths of my heart. The relationship that I still have today um, truly molded me. I grew up single mother. She's a fantastic mother. She's a fantastic mother. But even with my dad gone, for some time, um, I had a lot, but it didn't really start rolling until I actually met my uncle, which is my dad's baby brother. So I think I met him. I was probably about 11 years old, and then he's the one that really got me going. Making me stay focused on the main thing and keeping the main thing. But even outside of my uncle, I had a blessing of working with a group of men, which brought me to Northern Virginia, which was called at the time called College Prep World. And it was cool to work very close with the Vic family, with the White Vic and Raymond Washington. And I still have very good relationships with them today. But my time in the DMV area, that's what football is what brought me down to that area.
Okay.
I wanted to work with those gentlemen. I wanted to, I'm not even gonna lie, I just stepped out on faith, and me and Raymond, trainer, uncle, everything under the sun. He's like a family member to me. I still talk to him today, actually. And and I remember having a conversation with him. I said, "Man, listen, I don't know nobody down here. You said you have something for me that I can utilize my talent. So I'm stepping out on faith, and I'm moving, down in this area from Pittsburgh." And it just took off from there. I loved the area, truly loved it. Had a lot of great relationships was doing very well in football. Unfortunately, my time was cut short because my mom had taken a job down in the 757 area. So that's what brought me down to Hampton High School. And man, I had a time there. And even with me being in the 757 area, um, the team that I was working with in Northern Virginia, they just followed me. And, I would come up north sometimes, come down south sometimes, but they, followed me, still kept me going in the right direction. But when I was down there, I met a lot of great people that I still talk to today. Uh, but one that really hit home for me in the 757 area was my head coach, Coach Jeff Nelson. I think I talked to him maybe about a month or so ago, so we still stay in touch. But what really stuck out to me with him is he seen me as more than just an athlete because the 757 is very rich with athletes. So
Yes, it is.
he seen me more than an athlete, but what actually, stood out is the help that he lended me and my mom and my little sister, to help us find a home and stuff like that. So I can't play for him in that team. And along that journey from going to school and stuff from there, the relationships molded me. So I'll say within the Virginias, the relationships is what really was most impactful to me, and I still hold those, till today because they're very valuable. They're just not like when I say I just talk to them, I mean I'm not just like text message or a quick phone call. When we talk, and even when we got to do some adjusting and life skills, uh, workouts. If I'm doing something wrong, and we have those type of conversations very frequently. So I'll say the relationships is what it is for me because they still keep me going till this day. And I met all of them. I think when I first moved out of Pittsburgh, I was probably 15, 16 years old.
Describe the young Samuel Bennett before the degrees, before the titles. What kind of kid were you, and what did you dream about?
I mean, I think I was a normal kid. I mean, I went outside, rode my bike, played sports, of course. I tell people all the time, yes, I did have, the opportunity to go and play, football and everything like that. But the sport that I ultimately fell in love with first was baseball. And I say that all the
Okay.
time. I was like, man, I wish I would have kept playing baseball. Not saying, I would change my time with playing football, but I was like, man, I actually miss playing baseball. So, stuff like that, I did as a kid. Pretty much, about it. Always been a Steeler fan, from birth. So no matter where I would be in Pittsburgh, Virginia, Punta Cana, or Mexico, I'm watching the Steelers. So
Okay.
that's never changed. But that's just young Sam. I just played, and I was a gamer as a kid. I grew out of that more, as football and training, took off. But what did I dream about the most as a kid? Uh, to be honest with you, I think having a family is what I dreamed about the most. Um, because I didn't know what it looked like, didn't know how everything was going to unravel. Just wanted to see how that was going. But I think I would say I probably dreamed about the type of family I wanted to be, type of husband I wanted to be, stuff like that. I was always told I was always ahead of my years, and I was always thinking about things that other people typically don't think about for their age. So that would probably be it.
So, were there moments in your childhood or early years where you felt like the world had underestimated you, or where you witnessed others being overlooked? How did those moments shape your perspective?
Uh, you mean from a younger age or from now?
Younger age.
So from a younger age, Uh, I didn't like it. Uh, I didn't like it. I'm a big advocate for people, but I'm a very selfless person. So I'll tell you, like, hey, you did that person wrong, or you overlooked that person. That was a good candidate. You should have, tried it a
Mhm.
different way. Um, but within myself, um, I do the same thing. Just how it's done, how it's approaching. Just advocate when it needs to be done, and attack it the right way.
So, what was your relationship like with school as a student? Were there teachers or administrators who saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself?
Yeah, yeah. So once again, when I moved down to the 757, I had a principal. His name was Doctor. Well, now it's Doctor John Billy, but at the time, I think he was just working on a doctorate. Um, we used to have a lot of good conversations. We had a lot of good conversations, and one that I remember most vividly, um, I had a lot of good ones with him, but with my 12th grade English teacher, she had told me one time, Miss Ryan, she had told me, she said, Sammy, if you get your head out of your butt, you'll be a very good writer. She told me that all the time. She was like, if you really got your head out of your butt, you would be a good writer. And I remember that still to this day because it carried me through college. So I always wanted to be motivated to become a better writer. Um, just because I'm a very competitive person. So if you tell me I need to get better at something, I'm jumping on it right then and there. But if you also tell me that I can't do something, that lights a different fuel in me. So that's why I say, I mean, I'm a Pittsburgher. Don't tell me I can't do something that I know for a fact that I can do. I know situations and opportunities are different, but I pride myself on being a thinker.
So, talk to us about a defining moment, a crossroads, a challenge, a turning point that redirected the course of your life. Tell us what happened and how did it change you?
Oh man, my senior year undergrad football game on Saturday. I think we're probably the third or fourth game into the season. I completely break my forearm.
Oh,
So yeah, I have two plates and 12 screws in my arm, but that that was probably one of the lowest points of my life, and I learned so much about life and people in that moment because I seen a lot of people turn their backs on me when I broke my arm. Uh, but it brought me so much closer to the ones that I needed to be around, and I still have those relationships still to this day. But me breaking my arm was a complete eye opener. I had to completely learn how to use my left arm again, and it taught me the power of patience. Uh, it taught me how to think outside of the box. It taught me how to be very intentional in everything that I do. So breaking my arm in college, it I think that was the biggest eye opener in my life. I'll say that.
so what role did faith, spirituality, or your sense of higher purpose play in your upbringing and in the choices you have made as an adult?
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
What role did faith, spirituality, or your sense of higher purpose play in your upbringing and in the choices you have made as an adult?
I think my upbringing, I definitely grew up in the inner city of Pittsburgh. Definitely was the farthest thing from rich. My mom did, everything that she could possibly do as a parent. Um, but I just didn't know in Pittsburgh. I'm just being honest with you. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't know you. I just did not know. So when I went to Virginia, that was a big step for me because it completely changed my life. So that's where I say I stepped out on faith there because I was comfortable in Pittsburgh. And it wasn't, I moved to Virginia, didn't like it, moved to Pittsburgh, and I had to, like, I was that person. I couldn't stay away. But it was the best decision for me. But when I went down to Virginia, that's where I found my calling. That's when I found my purpose, in life. So through those relationships that we previously were speaking of, they were the ones who helped construct me and put me together into who I am today. And sometimes I laugh. I'm like, I wouldn't have thought about this a million years ago, but this is where God needed me to be. I feel like this is my calling. Um, I'm good at it, and I really enjoy people and their development.
Let's move over to the classroom, and let's talk a little bit about your work as an educator. Can you tell us when and how did you know that education was your calling? Was there a specific moment when something clicked and you understood that this was your path? How did that work?
Uh, I didn't really know at the time, to be honest with you. I think I got into education and teaching just so I can coach. You want me to be honest with you? So that was there. So I didn't really know. But when I got in and I started working in the special education department, that's when I was like, this is my calling. This is where I like to be. Um, and that's what solidified like this is this is what I want to do. And as I progressed through my time and being in different settings, different states, and seeing the how everything was so like it varied. Everything was just different in so many different ways. But one thing that stood out to most was yes, the leaves may be different, but the cores were the same. There still were the same problem, no matter where I was. So that's when I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to advocate for people and their development within education, whether if it's on the academic side or if it's on the athletic side. But at the end of the day, the whole purpose is for them to be developed and for them to be impactful within the community.
When I think about your resilience, because, I think you have to go through something in order to get somewhere. And I think you embody more than that, especially when it comes to the challenges of first getting into education. Can you tell us how did you manage to bring that together, in order to become such a great classroom leader and have your students to fall under your tutelage and be so great?
I just like to lead authentically. I kind of, to be honest with you, sometimes I forget I have my doctorate degree. Yeah, I kind of, not kind of, I do. I lead with my heart, with everything. That's just the person that I am. So, for everyone, I don't want to say fall in line, but I feel like that's the main reason why they gravitate toward me because I'm genuine in everything that I do. Um, and when I work with an individual or a family or a student, um, the only the only gain I get from that is seeing them grow or to achieve what they like to accomplish. So I like to bring it together that way. I like people to see me for who I am and not for how the world tries to portray me. So the best way for me to do that is to lead authentically, but also just to lead from my heart.
So take us into your first classroom. What was that experience like? The reality of it, the challenges, the surprises, the moments that confirmed you were exactly where you were supposed to be.
My first classroom was rough. I ain't even gonna lie to you. Listen. Listen. So my first classroom, right? My first classroom, I dealt with my first federal special education court case. Year
Wow.
one. Year one.
Wow.
Year one. That's what
Wow.
stamped me. I tell you, Virginia did a lot for me in my life. That's what stamped me as a special education educator. That moment right there. And then to find out the purpose behind it,
Hmm.
that's what lit a fire under me that's still burning 10 years later.
So
That situation.
is so did that give you purpose? Did that give you meaning? What exactly did that spin into you that made you so much better?
I said I'm going to completely rewrite the narrative based off of that last conversation I had with that lady. And once me and the building principal at the time, once we figured it out, so we had a conversation before we went into this last meeting. I was dismissed from that last meeting. And the county office came to my classroom and they said, "You're going to take 2 days off."
Wow.
They said, "You've been in teacher pre planning is the week before." And we started in about August. We started meetings that Thursday, started school on Monday. I was in a meeting 2 to 3 times a week, minimum 3.5 hours.
Oh, oh my
And it
God.
and it ran from August to the second week of March.
Ooh, did that take a toll on you?
It destroyed me. It destroyed me. And then it even got to a point to where even my wife had to tell me, and we still talk about it till this day. She says, "You will not do any work at home." Because I would be up till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, then still trying to go to the gym at 3. I was miserable. So I am very big on sticking straight to that. Like sometimes you got to work from home, and when we have to do that, we have to do that. But that 12, 1 o'clock stuff, no, because that situation that I went through there, it didn't just give me purpose. It told, I said, I'm going to completely rewrite this narrative and I'm going as far as I can possibly go. And I said, then no one's going to stop me. I'm going to get there no matter what I got to do to get it, but I'm going to get it.
So you chose special education as your professional foundation, a deliberate choice to serve students who are most often overlooked by the system. Tell us about that choice. What drew you to special education specifically?
I had a situation where I had came down to Virginia from Pittsburgh to see my mom. She was teaching medical assisting at the time, and she had a student that I just gravitated to. And once I really sat down with that student, and I went to work with her a couple times. So I would sit down with that student and I said, okay, I figured it out. That's where I said, okay, I, okay, I like this. Like, let's see, where I can go with this. And then as I grew older, I have a cousin, um, God rest his soul, he was autistic. Um, that that's where his death was like, okay. This is where, I really, really, really need to be. And then that situation, my first year, that's what completely changed me. Like that's when I said, this is what I'm going to do.
So, what do you believe are the most dangerous misconceptions that the general public and even a lot of educators hold about students with disabilities and diverse learning needs?
They think that they cannot learn and they think they are not smart.
Now, I call that an oxymoron. How can
Mhm.
you be a teacher and or an instructor and make that kind of statement?
Because I'll sit here and I've dealt with situations where people be like, oh, that student can't learn. Oh, that student can't learn. Oh, that student can't learn. No, the student can learn. You just got to understand how they learn. So, and that takes a lot of, meetings, practice. That's a whole separate conversation. But they can learn. It may not be traditionally, but they can learn. And there's different ways and different strategies to evaluate that and to still get to the same end goal. There's a lot of ways. And when I say, yeah, they can learn, they can learn. And when I say they are smart, once you really understand a student with special needs, and you know how they communicate, you know how they talk, things of that sort, they're very smart. They just can't articulate it the same way. So it comes off as if everyone's like, oh, they can't learn because the verbiage might be the same or, the lesson might look different. But if you understand it through their lens, they're very smart. You know how everyone say, autistic students are very smart, but they're not really seen that way because the way that their body is being adjusted to a disability. You might have a student where they're like, oh, they're not they're physical, they can't do this. I'm like, no, she's hitting you hard because she has sensory issues. So she doesn't know that she's hitting you that hard. To her, you just said, hey, you have to tap my shoulder. She tapped your shoulder. But you totally negated the fact that she tapped your shoulder because you felt like it was too hard. But you also got to understand she has sensory issues. So there's a lot of ways to really unfold that onion. So for me, it kind of it kind of burns me up when they say, "Oh, they can't learn because they can't." Oh, that that student has a disability, so they're not smart. No, they are. They just learn differently than you.
Dr. Bennett, when I hear you say that, I wish that a lot of teachers or instructors, that when they're teaching classes, especially with, it doesn't matter if it's a kid with disabilities or just a regular class, that if they really took the time tonight to, as you say, to really understand the students, but also to learn how to differentiate between each student. I think that would make so much of a difference.
Mhm.
But when we think about education today, why do you think we have so many of these teachers, instructors that are like they're like just all over the place? And a lot of it's not good for the education system. Why do you think that's so?
Uh, I feel like we have gotten away from teaching and focusing too much on the business aspect of it. There's not a lot of love in the schoolhouse anymore. Everything is systematic. Hurry up, go to class on time, don't talk, don't move, just sit there. So, it's different. So for me, um, the way that people view school is just different now. So everybody is when I say it has turned into a business, it has turned into a true legit business that where everybody is out for self, but forgetting that we're all here for the main purpose, which is
Right.
not for the kids, which is not for a title, which is not for salary. It's for the kids. But on the other side of things, the way that education is going right now, it's not good. And you could see it in every building. Like if 10 people are saying the same thing, it has to be true. So who's going to be the person that really investigate the truth? What's really going on? Who's taking the time to even see what's going on in their building? Because as a business, as long as you're checking off all the boxes, who cares about everything and everybody else?
Mm. That point is taken because I think that's like an obvious thing.
Yeah, so like now it's not about the love, it's about a number. It's not about the love, it's about the number. And now the kids are seeing it. And kids are going to be kids. So as long as kids are being kids and they don't have clear routines, clear structures, and it's being scaffolded the same way for them to learn it, adjust to it, then it's the same. But also, I'll say the generation is just different
That's
because
true too.
now you don't have parents as partners anymore, and we need that. We don't have parents as partners anymore. So I remember me as a kid. You say, "Hey, I'm gonna call your mom." I tighten up. I
You
could tell
know
you,
better.
I know better. I got a couple. I could tell you a couple stories where they're like, "Yo, I'm gonna call your mom." They're like, "I'll call her for you." But you have that things going on in the generation, and I don't even blame that piece on the schoolhouse. I blame that as just the generation of at home because if you treat your parent a certain way, you don't care how you treat anybody else within the world. That's just the truth. So now we have that going on, and we also have within this generation, we also have younger teachers. So now you have young parents with older kids coming into the schoolhouse where they have teachers 25, 26, some are 30, some are freshly, freshly in the game. And because these students are at home talking to their moms any type of way, things of that sort, what do you think they're going to present to you in the schoolhouse to a person, if you want to be technical, because of how the things are going, they really don't have to answer to them. So I think it's a lot of ways to peel that onion, and it's definitely a sharp sword. But I just think the generation the generation is different. The standard is no longer the same.
So tell us in this situation here, as we're discussing this, what is your approach to those situations? How do you make it work for you? What makes your system so different from these other teachers?
um what makes my system a little bit different is just, even though I am leading authentically and from my heart, I'm firm, friendly, but I'm fair. We're going to laugh, we're going to joke, we're going to talk about sports, we're going to handle our business, and we're going to get the work done. But at the end of the day, this is the line in the sand. We can laugh, we could joke, but this is it. And because on the other side of that, I lead the way that I do, it's respected. Because the
Wow.
same way I'm setting the standard of this is my requirement on how we're going to approach each other, how we're going to speak to each other, and how this, as I say, business relationship in the schoolhouse is going to go. I'm going to reciprocate the same thing for you. So the same way I come to you in the morning and say good morning, I'm going to get one in return. I shake all my students' hands like a firm handshake. How you doing? And I have a few gentlemen that I see every day. I teach them, and they want to, oh, Dr. Bennett. I'm like, no, 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 no. How are you doing? Good morning. And they're like, hey, how are you doing? Good morning. And we have a good conversation. And we properly introduce ourselves. So I think that's what brings it all together is the same things that I am requiring. I'm also distributing.
So tell us about a student who changed you, a child whose story, whose resilience, whose breakthrough taught you something about this work and about yourself that you could not have learned any other way.
Student. You want to know what's funny? I have a
Mm,
student, and she wrote me a note one day in class, and she just poured out her heart, how much she respects me, how much she appreciates how I always ask her how she's doing because she said she never told me the truth. She always told me she was fine and things of that sort. And then, the girl was like, sometimes I go to sleep and I cry at night because I feel like I can't say this and I don't know how to, maneuver here. And because she was one of my students, I knew her academic difficulties as well. So I said, okay, this is what, I have to do. But at the same time, I've carried that note in my backpack for about probably about 6 years now. And occasionally, I'll be cleaning out my backpack and I'll come across it and I always look at it and I'm like, the advocacy. Just imagine struggling in the classroom, struggling at home, have so much to say and don't know how to say it, don't know how to take it from the head to the mouth or either from the head to the mouth to the paper. Just imagine having to deal with those struggles in our world. Just imagine that. Just imagine having a struggle in all the outlets you should have as a kid. Your home should be an outlet. School should be an outlet. And no matter where you go, because you spend 8 hours of your day at school. So during the school year, you're at school more than you're at home throughout the day. So just imagine having to do that and still have the goals and the aspirations that she had, even though she has told me that she did not think she was going to be able to achieve her goals because of her academic deficits. So that's what really, it keeps me grounded at work.
Let's um let's talk a little bit about the principal's office and beyond your work in leadership. Walk us through the transition from classroom educator to educational leader. What prompted it? What did it feel like? And what did you discover about yourself in the process?
Oh man. Um, leadership, leadership was, the classroom was fun, but my time in leadership was very valuable because that, man, I learned a lot from the administrative side that teachers don't see within the classroom. So, going from the classroom to administrator was very valuable to me. But being an administrator was probably the most impactful because I had to learn on the fly. uh, the gentleman who got me into leadership, I still talk to him today, and a lot of things that he taught me, I was able to still carry with me that I still use today. And I had said something one time, and he was moving. As an administrator, you really don't get the chance to sit still at work. You're usually on your feet. And he had asked me a question, and I gave it back to him, and he answered it like as he was walking past me. And he looked at me. He said, "Oh, Bennett, you ain't gonna be able to work for me if you." He was like, "Oh, Bennett, you ain't gonna be able to work for me if you think that's slow." I was like, "Okay." But as I grew in the leadership, I understand that now because everything has to be very precise and it has to be done quickly because there are possibly four administrators in a building that holds 1,000 plus students.
Oh wow, that's a big school.
Possibly, sometimes things work like that. When it all comes down to it, and I'm sure there's some structures, underneath to kind of support that. But just think about it: the people who make the final decisions in the building are the principal and the assistant principals. Let's say there's four of them, but the ultimate decision making comes down to the principal. So having to work really quick and have to lead with love and with your heart with every single student, granted, because there could be a million of them, we don't have that much time to sit with one, but you got to be on your toes 100% mentally in tune for every single student with a different situation coming from a different background. And when you add in the staff, you have to take care of them as well. So that right there is one thing that I remember today, and I still said, can't think too slow. Got to be right, but you can't think too slow.
So, so you operate on belief that leadership is service. Where does that philosophy come from? How does it show up in the way you lead day to day?
It's a service. I am a member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, um, my beloved fraternity. Service is something that we do, but the development that I get from there are the same things that I put within my buildings or whatever setting I'm in. So service is the main thing that to me speaks to authenticity. It's just service. You know, we have gotten out of a time of just lending a good hand to somebody with nothing expected in return. Just service. Just you see somebody in need, help them. You have more young kids mugging and robbing old ladies in the parking lots of the grocery store instead of walking her to her car and helping her with the bags. Just general service with no expectation of anything in return. And that's just how I truly feel um, I want to be. I want to be known for. Um, I don't want to be known as the guy who just sits around with his hand out and don't really look for anything. That's just something I don't want to do. So service is big to me.
So, when it comes to your leadership, what does leadership mean to you, and how do you implement that leadership?
What does leadership mean to me? Um, Leadership to me just means empowering people to do the things that they think they cannot achieve on their own. Giving them the different strategies, giving them different avenues, providing different opportunities for them to collaborate, for them to come together as a collective and realize that we cannot do this work by ourselves and we definitely need to be together.
So, how do you build school culture? Not just mission statements and slogans, but the kind of deep living culture where excellence and care are genuinely felt by every person in the building.
Wow, that's a big question. Culture is big in every organization that you're in, but for me,